What I covered before were the most common factory methods. We're now going to spend a little time talking about other factory methods, because there is a whole boatload of other factory methods as well. So we'll just talk about some of them. So one way to be able to create a stream is by using the IOStream classes. Just to be completely confusing, as we talked about before, we have IO streams, and then we have Java 8 streams. They both say stream. They're not the same thing, but you can convert one to the other, just to be even more, sort of conflated as the case may be. So there's a method on bufferedreader. Bufferedreader is a IOStream class that will take a file and create a stream of lines in the file. And a line is considered to be a new line terminated sequence of bytes. So basically what we see here is this is called print file lines. We're going to go ahead and pass in a file name, and we're then going to go ahead and create a new buffered reader by saying files.newBufferedReader, and we pass in the file name to this thing called paths. That will go ahead and create ourselves a new buffered reader. So that's what this thing does. And then we say reader in the body of the try catch block. We say reader.lines, and .lines takes the file that was created by new buffered reader and creates a stream of lines from that file. And then for each of the lines in the file, we're going to go ahead and print the line out. And so kind of interesting if you take a look at this thing. So this is the overall approach. We're going to create a stream containing all the lines in a file. Then we're going to print those things out. And as you can see in this case, this is the method that we use to create a stream. Oh, sorry. So that's one way to do it. This is using bufferedreader.lines, the lines method. That's one way to do this stuff. By the way, the reason we put this in a try catch block here is so that this will automatically close the file when this whole block is done. It's called try with resources. It's called a try with resources try block, and it uses something called an auto close feature. Here's another way to do the same sort of thing. In this case, we're going to use the files.lines method. So over here, we use bufferedreader.lines. Over here, we're going to use files.lines. And this is going to, again, be passed in a file name, and we're going to end up getting a stream. And then for each element in the stream, we're going to print out the lines one at a time. So file.lines will create a stream containing all the lines in the file, where each line is broken up and made into a separate string in the stream, and then we just iterate through there and print it out. These kinds of operations are particularly useful if you're doing a lot of file-related operations and you want to treat things as streams. And I'll show you some examples of that later when we look at the implementations of some of the input methods we've been talking about that read in the works of Shakespeare, or read in the list of phrases, or the words defined, or whatnot. Here's another interesting feature, and I use this a lot when I do testing. You can create a stream of random numbers, either ints or longs. So there's a random number class called random, and there's a method called ints on the random number class, and you give it the range of the random numbers you want. So generate me an infinite, unbounded stream of random numbers between 0 and 100. That's what this is saying. And if you just did that, and then you said dot for each, it would go on forever, right? Because there's no end to the random numbers that you could generate. In this case, we don't want to wait forever, so we're going to limit it to the first 50 random numbers between the values 0 and 100. And I use this a lot in testing, when I'm testing my programs, just to generate some random numbers to sort or to check to see if something's prime or whatever I need to do. And then we go ahead and print the random numbers out. There's some other ways to create a stream. One of the more interesting ways, which we'll talk a lot about later, is something called stream support, which is the name of a class, stream. So stream support.stream is a factory method that takes a splitterator, and you'll get a chance to do splitterators for assignment 2A. And it takes a splitterator, and then it goes ahead and it will create a stream from whatever the split iterator returns. So the split iterator is used to break up the collection or the whatever the search operations are. In this case, we're trying to find matching phrases. And so we'll go ahead and make a split iterator that will create matching phrases, and it'll turn that into a stream. So that's really, really, really cool. Another interesting thing you can do is you can take a regular expression. I think we talked about regular expressions before. And you can use a regular expression. You can compile a regular expression with a splitter, and then you can take some input string and you can split it up based on whatever the regular expression matches are. So if you're trying to, like in this case, I was splitting things up to split a big file up into strings corresponding to the different works of Shakespeare. And I used the @ sign as the symbol to separate the strings. So that was the splitter regular expression. So here we're going to, as you can see, we're going to read in all the bytes in a file, make one string out of that, and then we're going to split that string up into a stream of strings by splitting around the regular expression. So that's yet another cool thing that you can do. So lots and lots of different ways of creating things that are going to be streams using these other factor methods. Okay, and then I think this might be one of the last examples here. There's also a method called generate, which will just keep creating new objects based on the method reference or lambda expression you pass in here. What this particular example is going to do is it's going to generate an initial infinite stream of tree maps. So we're going to make a bunch of tree maps, and then we're going to limit it to the first 100 tree maps. Why the heck do you want to do this? Mostly for some kind of test program, which is what I was doing it for here. So this will create a bunch of tree maps, and then it'll go ahead and collect them into a list of 100 tree maps. So those are some of the key factor methods you can use to create streams. So at this point, you should know enough, more than enough, to be able to do portions of your assignment, and also not just be able to do the assignment, but to sort of understand what's going on under the hood. Later in the course, we will talk about more advanced aspects of this having to do with split iterators and how split iterators work, and how you define split iterators to partition your input up into chunks. But that'll come later.